Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast. I'm your host with the most time on his hands. Apparently, breaking news. I didn't know it's our co-host's birthday. I'm just seeing the post now. If I had have known that, you sneaky bastard, I would have done a whole production about it. So you're lucky because it would have been embarrassing, and you're muted right now.
Yeah, I did a quick change. I've been doing this on the Wednesday show for anyone that watches it on Wednesdays, where like we talk for like 2 minutes and then it goes into the intro song and then we come back. And I mean, being from the West Coast, I'm always like sprinting home from work, so I'll do the intro in like my work clothes, and then all of a sudden we go to the we go to the music, and then I'm in my, as Tom calls it, my crypto gear.
Yes.
And I did the same here. So when we were talking free show, I'm in like a dress shirt and everything. So that's why I was muted as I'm trying to do the quick change. Brings you back to my musical days. But anyway, yes, 100%. It is my birthday. No better spot to be reining in 25 than tilting with my two mates here. Yay! Clap for survival for 25 trips around the sun.
Big ups. Look. This is another good show today. We have something.
Tom, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
I can hear you, buddy. It isn't you. It's Billy.
Yeah, it's
my
definitely
God.
you.
What?
We'll get that.
For what it's worth, Billy, I can hear you. Not that you can hear me saying I can hear you.
Yeah,
and I can hear you.
I can.
All right, I'll be back.
We're gonna figure this out. Billy's gonna take off. We're gonna shift to this graphic here, even though it's an old one.
Oh, look at this. I'm pouring myself a nice birthday drink here.
Oh, I love that. Look, I don't think we've ever had a time on the show where we discussed our processes openly.
No.
I think we've all just mentioned that all of our processes are different. But for the first time on this program, we are going to talk about our processes, roast one another about it. I'm sure Jacob will be really bored to tears with how I handle my Dynasty rosters. He'll be really unimpressed, but definitely a first. We're going to talk a little about the NFL awards. We're going to talk about the Pro Bowl. Obviously, Kamara visiting Henry Ruggs in his permanent vacation spot, and Kyler unfollowing the Cardinals. These are all These are all things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about processes, and then we're going to talk a little about the new number theory. But first, when it comes to fantasy football, what do we got? Happy birthday. Oh, Taylor,
thanks,
here
Cold
we go.
T. Thank you,
He's
Cold
still
T.
here. What up, Cold T? Good. Hey, Taylor, good luck this weekend, man. I'm so happy for you as a football fan, right? I've been lucky enough to see 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime. Jacob, you were lucky enough to see the big win with Indianapolis. We're happy for you. We're rooting for you, and we are pulling for you, truly. And Jacob is still yet a child. That is correct. He is the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast's large adult son. That's exactly right. You knew exactly where I was going with it. We got Billy back. We're going to take a quick second. When we come back, we're going to talk about the NFL awards for sure. Sit tight.
Oh,
sorry,
Billy.
Well,
sorry,
Billy, you're back.
Sorry, everyone. Jacob's costume change to look like a hacker in a bad movie ended up taking out my internet. But I'm back. I'm glad to be here.
Are you wearing a Texas Tech polo shirt?
He is.
Yeah, representing, baby.
Representing. Taylor, look, it doesn't matter if it's a rival or not. I'm not one that truly believes in the I need to hate this opposing team because I root for another one. I want to see my friends get to experience Super Bowl wins, except for Brad, who's in the chat, and the Patriots. I could not watch you guys win for 20 years.
Well, he's experienced several Super Bowl wins. He doesn't
Too
need any
many.
Other
So go and get it, homie. Go and get it. And just like I said, take it in, enjoy it. Stay off the Bird app unless you're selling. Just enjoy the game, my man. 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, let's talk awards. I mean, it is award season. People care about that sort of thing leading into the Super Bowl. We all have kind of the same gripe with the NFL awards, right? They always pick the most routine, redundant players, positions. Not saying they're not deserving, but the MVP is usually a joke. Even in Super Bowl games, James White easily should have won an MVP for
Damian
the
Williams, the GOAT.
Yeah, Damian Williams for sure. So players obviously get robbed. So let's talk MVP. I know Billy's pulling up the betting odds right now, but we're not going to talk about players we think are going to win because we kind of know. We want to pick a player that we feel are going to win these awards that don't have a shot at winning these awards, but we feel are getting gypped because of positional bias. Jacob, I want to start with MVP. Who do you think is winning the MVP? And then who do you actually think deserves to win MVP?
To be clear, this is the regular season MVP, right? Not the Super Bowl MVP?
Yes.
This is not Super Bowl MVP.
Well, so I thought that I still personally think that Brady might actually win it. I know Rodgers has been the betting favorite for a while. I just think I understand it's supposed to be based on the regular season, etc. I just feel like with Brady retiring, with Rodgers pissing people off politically, I just feel like voters are going to want to check the name for Brady. So that would be my guess. My off-the-wall pick, I mean, look, I understand why the MVP is always a quarterback. The quarterbacks are the most valuable players. I get it.
Sure.
However, if we're trying to get creative about it, I've tweeted this out, I think, 4 separate times in the season. I think that the best player in the NFL is Deebo Samuel. I think that just what he does as a rusher, as a receiver, as just a football player, like there's nobody else like him. I don't remember anyone else like him. I mean, he goes out there, lines up as a wide receiver and wrecks defenses. He lines up in the backfield. He's one of the best running backs in the league. He ranks right now, according to PFF, he was in the top 10 in the entire NFL in receiving grade as a receiver, and he was in the top 10 in the entire NFL in rushing grade, taking snaps directly as a running back. I mean, that's just ridiculous stuff.
He's unreal.
And I mean, he is their offense. You can see how valuable he was because their team sucked for the first half of the season. They were 3-5. They went into the Monday night game against LA when everybody was thinking, okay, if they lose this game, that's it for Jimmy. Their season's going in the tank. And they decided that first game, I was like, all right, we're going to just play Deebo as this hybrid wide back, they call him. And from that point forward, they ended up going on this massive run. They won 9 of their next 12 games, including the playoffs, solely when they moved him into the backfield. 3 of those being those must-win games, the playoffs, the end of the season. So Deebo Samuel, that's my MVP.
Not bad. I like that one, and I'll take this one. It's gonna seem a little weird, maybe, but Tristan Wirfs might be my MVP.
Solid.
Because look what happened when they didn't have him in the playoffs. When he went out, they got obliterated, and it sent Brady into retirement. He's already a top 3 tackle in the NFL. I don't think that's really disputable. He doesn't allow sacks or pressures. He doesn't get penalties. He anchors the line. He's just not a player that I think gets enough credit already. Yeah. And I really think he was the anchor on the Bucs outside of Tom Brady. He was the man. And when he went down, it really showed. And for a guy in his second year, I think he definitely deserves an outside the box MVP vote. Billy?
Everyone's favorite, the most fun pick, going for the O-lineman. Yep. Always appreciate it.
Gotta keep the old school roots intact here.
Yeah, when I was coming into this, I wanted to pick Brady, but I agree with Jacob that I think there's a legitimate chance his name is called as MVP. I think it makes a lot of sense, and that's where I'm standing. I think there isn't a single player on this list right now who affected their team more than Cooper Kupp this year. Yeah. So I'm going to take him. Yeah. I mean, Matt Stafford, when he wasn't throwing to Cooper Kupp, just looked like a guy.
Was throwing to the other team.
For some reason, when it was Cooper Kupp,
I don't know, man. Bennett Skoranek really put on a show.
Yeah. So I think Cooper Kupp is a lock for Opoy. I think that's pretty likely. But I think he deserves an MVP vote.
I agree. I think that if there was going to be someone that the wide receiver, I'd take Cooper Kupp over Deebo. But I like both these picks. Shout out Dustin.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Happy to see you up in here with us. All right, what's the next one, Billy? What is it? Offensive Player of the Year?
I got Opoy and
quickly.
Yeah, Opoy, and this one's fun because Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor are both currently tied. So we got to go with someone who isn't Cooper Kupp and Jonathan Taylor.
Darn it, I should have used my Deebo now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm going to take Deebo. I think.
For all the reasons that Jacob just mentioned in the MVP.
I didn't think this one through.
Yeah. No, Deebo is – I tweeted this out earlier. Deebo tested, or his grades this year for receiving and rushing combined are number 7 all time in total yards. And he has more rushing yards than everyone else in the top 20 combined. So just enjoy that. Debo deserves it. I mean, what can you say?
100%. Jacob?
Yeah, well, I come from a legal background, and it's important to give as many different perspectives to language as you possibly can. Okay. And so when I think of someone who truly encompassed this award this year, I think of someone who was a driving force behind their team's success offensively. And then I think of someone who was just generally offensive. And so I think Aaron Rodgers is the offensive player of the year.
Let's go, baby.
That was very well done. I mean, you're right. If he doesn't win the MVP, oh boy, for sure. For me, if I had to pick an offensive player of the year, you can call me a homer all you want, but I'm picking Mark Andrews. That guy went through, obviously having Lamar Jackson, but it was when he got dealt with Josh Johnson and Tyler Huntley, became the number one target. Yeah. He dethroned Travis Kelce as the fantasy football tight end 1, and he was an absolute stud MVP type player for that team down the stretch. Mark Andrews definitely deserves, if not the award, he deserves a look at the award for not only breaking out, but absolutely dismantling. It didn't matter if he was double covered, triple covered. Everyone knew it was coming. Diving catches, one-handed, touchdowns, everything, with Tyler Huntley and Josh Johnson against really tough matchups. They had a really rough schedule down the road. Mark Andrews is mine.
He was certainly the best ball MVP. I remember when we were putting out data, and I don't know how it finished after the final, but legitimately, I think it was 55% of teams that advanced to the final round in the underdog best ball tournaments had Mark Andrews. It was like, I remember I had Mark Andrews on my team that got the final, because of course I did. And I remember looking around everyone in my room, and it was like, oh, another Mark Andrews Cooper Cup team. Oh, another Mark Andrews Cooper Cup. Yeah. Everybody had Mark Andrews. It's crazy.
For sure.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think the obvious ones, right, are the kind of the ones.
The odds are 1 in 365, Daniel.
Actually,
well, what's
Daniel?
Technically 1 in 365.25 with the leap year every 4 years.
All right, There you go. So those are the offensive player of the years. What's next, Billy?
All right, I'm going to skip defense because we're a fantasy show and we got to move along.
I don't even care.
We're not an IDP podcast.
Yeah, so let's round it out. We don't need to do coach of the year. Let's do offensive rookie of the year. And
so we can't pick Chase.
Currently, the favorite is Jamar Chase, but he's favored by less than I expected. Also, fun fact, the NFC has won the O'Roy 13 of the last 14 years. That's just a weird fact that's on this website.
I didn't know that.
What's the number? What's the number on Jamar Chase if you say it's less than he thought? Because he should be minus a million.
Negative 250.
I would smash that.
Yeah.
I mean, who's second? Mac Jones?
At plus 200.
Yeah, I'll take Chase.
Okay. Yeah, so we think offensive rookie of the year, this is kind of limited, right? Because it's kind of the studs and then some okays. Yeah. So Jacob, who do you have that isn't named Jamar Chase?
Yeah, well, I make this argument every single year for offensive rookie of the year, and it never, ever will be successful. But I made this argument last year for Tristan Wirfs, and I'll make it this year for Rashawn Slater. The most important position on the football field on offense is tackle. And yet, when we're in the draft, constantly they take tackles in the top 10, the top 5, because it's the most valuable offensive position, potentially, that or wide receiver, maybe. But in my opinion, it's offensive tackle. And then in the award rankings, whenever there's rookies that perform like studs at the tackle position, they never even get any consideration.
Well, Wirfs example is Wirfs, right? Last year.
Yeah, I put out a thread last year. I thought Wirfs should have won offensive rookie of the year last year. This year, I think it actually just should be Chase because he was ridiculous. And so was Jefferson last year. So certainly deserving. And this year, I think Rashawn Slater would be my guess behind Chase. I think he was superb. And did I steal someone's pick? Why was Billy mad?
No, I was with you. I was going to go offensive line, but
do it.
Else. Okay, go for it.
I'm going to take Creed Humphrey. For those of y'all who don't know, he was the O-lineman drafted by the Chiefs this year, and to go from what their Super Bowl team was and how like exposed they look at as an offensive line. Now they went back to one of the better O-lines in the league.
That's
and
legit.
a lot of that is back on the back of Creed Humphrey, an interior offensive line. Hell yeah, baby. Give me that pick.
That's pretty legit. I like.
We are now an O-line podcast.
Yeah. Let's go through PFF rankings on offensive linemen.
2 listeners.
Our downloads are gonna plummet.
Wait, our listens doubled?
Oh my
It's just
God.
me.
If I were gonna pick an offensive rookie of the year that wasn't Jamar Chase and Mac Jones, I'm not picking Najee Harris. I'm definitely picking Javonte Williams. All right, he's my offensive rookie of the year. Not. Look, the man literally split time and still stood out in nearly every metric you can ask for a running back. He stood out, can do everything, and that was with limited time. I think he was a top 15 fantasy running back in total finish. I don't know what his points per game is, Jacob, so don't even rain on my parade with this.
I was about to kick him from the
but
stream.
I don't care. He finished well as a rookie, splitting that time, and then when Gordon was out, he was electric. It's Javonte Williams. He was everything you wanted and more from a player. Hopefully the workload follows. What's next?
Oh, and I guess we'll finish off with one more. Comeback player of the year. Currently, Dak Prescott is favored to win it.
I don't like that.
Ridiculous.
You can see the video right now. You can see him crying on the cart as it's taking
player of the year is literally playing in the Super Bowl. How
yeah.
Waddle would have been a good one too. Waddle would have been a good one too.
I was going to say Waddle, Amon-Ra, and Kyle Pitts all should deserve it over Devontae. But Kyle Pitts didn't catch a touchdown on American soil. So
yeah, well, you guys picked offensive linemen, so shove it.
But comeback player of the year, I think the bulk of us will agree that should be Burrow. I'll give an outside pick to Joe Mixon just because
Mixon's good.
And if you want to play the actual team, Bosa probably deserves to be on there. But I think we're all going to agree it should be Burrow.
Well, I'll give a more interesting one, but I certainly do agree on Burrow.
Another offensive lineman.
No, I'm going to the other side of the trenches. Randy Gregory. One of my picks for comeback player of the year. He was a guy who was touted as a top 5 pick out of Nebraska. And then he fell in the draft, had some drug issues coming out with continued to fail cannabis tests. And his career, you'd always see the talent when he came out on the field, and his career really ended up getting derailed. He had a lot of mental health issues. He had substance use issues. And this was the year that he really got to help put it together. He had a really fun year for Dallas this year. And I know I'm not actually making a case. I understand it's Burrow. I just thought it was one of my favorite stories of this season. Seeing a guy who's always had the talent and has had a lot of inner demons able to put it all together. I really enjoyed watching that this year. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Randy Gregory because I thought that was a cool story this year.
All right.
Yeah, man. That was pretty dope for sure. Man, it's tough because can I give it to Christian McCaffrey even though he only played 3 games?
No. You can give it to him next year when he plays 4.
Yeah, no kidding. Man, this is tough. You guys have all picked the best ones. I'll be honest, I don't really have a leading contender, but let's go with Cordero Patterson. I'm gonna give it to him.
That's fine.
The guy didn't just come back from one season. He came back from 7 years of
He came back from a career.
Yeah, he came back from a career and he revived it. I'm gonna go Cordero Patterson. That guy was, at least for fantasy, an absolute stud, and he held the Falcons together after Calvin Ridley left until their unfortunate demise. That is the award season. I am going to. I think Billy said Nick Bosa.
Yeah, I gave Bosa the shout out.
Yep. Yeah, we covered that. We covered that, Daniel. Look, that's going to do it for the award show. Guys, can we talk about what is going on in Las Vegas right now?
You got to avoid Vegas if you're an NFL player.
There couldn't be a worse place
if
for
you're a criminal
NFL
defense
franchise.
attorney. It's a great spot.
I don't think there could have been a bit they thought Oakland was bad. They thought Oakland was violent and just rough. And apparently when you go to Las Vegas, not only are players going away for, murder, and now they're going away for assault, drunk driving, touting weapons. I don't know what's happening over there, but what is important is knowing what to do when one of your players does dumb shit. So Alvin Kamara, and big fan right here, helmet right there. I'm really hoping I don't got to put that away in storage forever, depending on what comes out. Jacob, you're a resident law guy. What is your first take on it?
Yeah, well, I think he clearly made a couple of bad decisions. First of all, he probably made a bad decision, punching
such a
a guy.
lawyer response.
And then, here's my real lawyer response. The really bad decision he made was talking to the police. Because he said some things that are disputed in the other party submission, and we know that there's a video, and apparently the video does not support some of the things that Alvin said. So it's not great when you give a statement that is contradicted by a video. At this point, what I expect will happen, if this actually went to trial, and there's a video, then as long as the party who is harmed wants to continue to press charges, then this can carry to trial. Where usually on issues like this, where it's bodily harm, not like a murder trial or sexual assault or something like this, the victim has a lot of say, right? And so maybe they reach some sort of agreement or something, something gets pleaded down. You never know. However, ultimately, the actual party submission won't matter all that much because there's going to be a video. I haven't seen the video. No one has, but apparently there's a video out there. And if the video shows what happened, then that makes it, a little bit more open and shut. So we'll see. The issue is in Nevada, they have mandatory minimum sentences. So if this actually goes to trial, then you actually are going to jail for a year. I don't expect it to. If I had to guess, I expect this to get settled down to a misdemeanor. And then he'll probably get a short suspension. But I don't know. Definitely legitimate uncertainty here. And a lot of it depends on what the harmed party wants to do.
I'm looking at the picture for the first time, and my boy looks like he got a full reconstructive surgery on his cranium. So this is insane. Billy's statement?
Yeah, it's not good. like a lot of times, usually when I see stuff like this, and it is in the position where a player could just be gone for a year or more, my advice is you're either going to sit on them and eat a lost cause, or you're going to sell them at a heavy discount. Kamara is such a big deal for your fantasy team. I think the way you have to approach this is hope that first of all, whoever is the wronged party in the situation, they get the retribution that they deserve 100%. And hope that your fantasy team is okay. But obviously I don't want to take away from the situation. But I think the process you need to approach this as is it feels very similar to you just watched a player go down with could be an Achilles.
Right.
You kind of have to think, oh no, I might not see them again, or they could be back next week.
Yeah, and Daniel hit it right here. I assumed it was bad when I saw broken orbital bone. That's not good.
Here's my one legal take. If this actually does end up proceeding to trial, I think, right. So you have to look at all the elements of the offense, and in this case, what the kicker is the battery causing substantial bodily harm. Right, that's where the mandatory minimum comes in, and so it's going to be very easy to see on video the battery portion because if you either hit him or you didn't. But what's harder is from the sounds of it, there was multiple people that hit him, right, and so where you can bring in some reasonable doubt is depending on how clear the video is, who actually gave the punch, who gave the kick that broke the orbital bone. That's where you can maybe find a little bit of wiggle room if you're the defense. But without seeing the video, it's really hard to say. If I was on this case, the first thing I would do is look at the video, right, and then you got to take it from there.
Yeah, it's not taking away from. I don't want to take away from the situation either. But you got to know what to do in fantasy, right? It's still relevant to us, especially drafts are happening, trades are going down. I know I have him on quite a few rosters that I'm feeling really not so great about right now. It's tough, but I think, Billy, you're right. I think you have to hold on to Alvin Kamara. And I've sent trade offers out for him, but you're not getting him for a third-round pick, and that's about what I'd be wanting to pay right now, right?
I think you hold. I would certainly buy for like a mid 2, and I definitely think about it on an early 2. I wouldn't give a 1. I mean, I feel like he wasn't worth that much more than like a mid first anyway, right? I mean, he's going to be 27 before the next season.
Good save, Daniel.
Yeah, good save.
Didn't jump that button.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I think probably like early 2 would be about where I'd max out. I mean,
yeah.
The problem is it's like, the same. If it was a 22-year-old wide receiver, I'd be buying aggressively, right? But I mean, he's going to be 27 before the start of next season. If he misses half the season, like that's missing a significant portion of what you're buying him for, right? There ain't that much time left. But best case scenario, if you're buying him, you're adding him to a contending roster. Let's even say he gets suspended 6 games, 8 games, then okay, whatever. You sit on him, and then hopefully you add him in at the fantasy playoffs when you really, really need him. I think that's okay. The only way you're really dead is if he missed the whole year. And the best part is, part of the reason why he was falling in drafts is because everyone's scared of this New Orleans situation. What's the worst case scenario? He gets cut. That's not that bad. There's better places to be, I think, than the New Orleans Saints.
Welcome to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Team, right? Like as long as he's on a team and playing games in the fantasy playoffs, then to me that's worth an early second. So we'll take.
It's like it would be like, to me, it would be like getting a player back off an injury.
Yeah.
Right. It's a player coming back from a separated shoulder, except he's actually healthy. And he went at 6'10". That's not the worst case scenario. It could have been. Imagine last year when he was still going in round 1. Yikes. Yeah. And last bit of news-ish before we move on to the actual process portion. Kyler Murray doing the classic NFL trope, unfollowing the team and everything on social and hiding. Yeah. He deleted everything. They always hide them. Remember this with Allen Robinson and with Tariq Cohen and stuff like that last off season.
It's goofy.
What's happening? So there's one myth or rumor that I heard, and it's that it's Cliff Kingsbury's I totally botched his name. Kingsbury's name last year on his contract, and they have the same agent. So with rumors of the ownership not paying out their playoff bonuses on time, like they're mad. I don't know if they're like renegotiating with Big Cliff. This might be a play to get Cliff to come back, but you would think you'd actually have to be an NFL megastar to have that happen. And Kyler Murray has been great at times and not so great at other times, and they haven't really moved their needle. They've been kind of that above 500, but not real special, if you know what I mean. So to me, I think this is a play for Big Cliff. I don't think it's a play for Kyler himself. I don't think he wants out of Arizona, but
I don't think he wants out. He's extension eligible, just finished his 3rd year.
Yeah.
So I certainly don't think he wants out. He might, I don't know, maybe they're having contract negotiations and he wants some more money. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to hold out.
Well, and they can still pick up his 5th year. So it's like, you're not getting an extension now.
Yeah. if you have Kyler Murray, like you don't have to care about this at all.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just something to note that he's already doing it. That's kind of problematic. My big joke was that he's fighting to get another top 10 receiver the last decade so he can be good again. With Hopkins getting hurt, I feel like that's kind of his thing. Because he's an average passer without it, and that's pretty clear. So we'll see what happens. There was apparently drama with Christian Kirk's mom on the interwebs about how she wants Christian Kirk to get out of Arizona because of Kyler Murray.
Everyone's trying to OBJ.
And yeah, exactly. OBJ started a trend, baby. It's going to become the NBA now.
Oh my God, that's funny.
But also, I should have mentioned for comeback player, could we not just give it to OBJ for coming back mid-season after what the Browns
Probably
did
not.
to him? Don't take my fun away, Billy. Come on. But I don't know. I think it's kind of important. Panicky managers might be willing to part with Kyler Murray a little bit more, but we'll got to keep an eye on it, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, what do they do? I don't think they can spend their 1st-round pick on a wide receiver. I think they needed offensive lineman pretty bad. Like, I don't know what they do.
They've invested at wide receiver. They have Hopkins. Hopkins wasn't an elite, as elite as he's been this year, but he's still like really good.
He was his favorite red zone target.
Yeah, he's still certainly a well above average starting receiver. And then you got Rondale, who they just drafted in the second round. They're going to want to at least see where that goes. And I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if they re-sign one of AJ Green or Christian Kirk. They still have Zach Ertz. I wouldn't be surprised if they re-sign him. I think they sign at least. I think they bring at least one, maybe two of Ertz, Green, and Kirk back. And then, we'll see where it goes from there. I mean, the issue in that offense is they just play so many 4 wide receiver sets or 11 personnel sets. They really do need a lot of bodies. They don't have depth. I mean, you get down to Anton Wesley pretty quick, but they're going to be fine. I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, Andy Isabella, no. A-Rob in Arizona, maybe if they don't bring back AJ Green, I could see A-Rob fit that split end role pretty well, actually.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, nailed that one, Chris. Anything else to add here, Billy?
Nah, I think it's a wait and see. Like it's
okay.
It's crazy stuff. If crazy stuff starts happening, that was a rough one. If crazy stuff starts happening, we'll know. Like right now, this is just a monitor situation. See if you can get a discount on Kyler. I doubt you can.
Yeah, I think they're also the Arizona Cardinals in a weird spot to me with their roster. Right, their cap space is okay. They brought in J.J. Watt. They've got some good defenders that they're going to have to start paying. Right, their DB, their secondary is pretty good. Their linebacking core pretty good. But they need help on offense. Obviously, Kyler wants a contract. They don't have a running back outside of Benjamin on their roster. Their draft picks have definitely got to go to the two lines, right, offensive and defensive line. I expect them to hammer that heavy. I just don't know what you do there, and obviously free agent's an option, but we see how that works out for teams. They're right in between. I think they're very much at risk of being a Pittsburgh Steelers, where their best players are getting older and the rest of their roster is suffering.
It's an issue. I mean, this is one of the hard parts of when you fast track it at quarterback is one of your best window to compete. Unless your quarterback becomes a true superstar, your best window to compete is when you have them on the rookie contract, because you can do fun things like sign J.J. Watt
before they delete all their social media.
Right. It's just now the problem is, like, when they got Kyler, they didn't have anything. They had an absolute rotting carcass of a roster, and so for the first year of Kyler, they were ass, and for the second year of Kyler, they were a little bit less ass. And, this is the first year they've built a decent team around him, and they kind of did it with patchwork, right? They did it with a lot of vets on short-term deals. And so it's just, it's a tough situation. It's not like, with like the Russell Wilson example, where you have this really strong core and then you bring on the quarterback. That's why I really like what Detroit's doing, where they're building the kind of team where when you get a quarterback, you are actually ready to compete by year 1, year 2. Or San Francisco is similar, right? I mean, ideally, you want to be ready to compete for years 2 through 4 of that rookie contract, because that's when you have all the value on your quarterback. And the problem with Kyler is their rebuild coincided with Kyler's first year. And so they're not really quite ready in time. And then as they're supposed to get into their contention window, they're going to start have to pay Kyler. So it's a tricky one.
Trust me, I'm terrified of Lamar Jackson $43 million contract for what it means for the Ravens, right? And if that's what Kyler Murray's wanting, oh man, I don't know how they pay him that with what he's done in the NFL so far. So very interesting to see. All right, we've been rambling a little bit. Let's get into process. We're going to take a quick second, let you guys get a break from the sound of our voices. Let us collect our thoughts. We're going to come back. We're going to talk some process. It should be a good one. Sit tight. So I don't know how many of these we're going to fully get through, because these are some real deep end topics, but we're going to get through the most. So I want to go through first out of this. We're going to go trust the process or bust the process. This is what this segment is called. Thanks to our man over there, Big Billy, who came up with this. So I'm going to actually start with B, trust. A player who you bought into a lot and liked in your process and ended up paying extreme dividends. This could be a hot take or someone you've always liked. Billy, this is your bit. I'm going to kick it off to you.
Yeah, so this one is really fun because my trust and my bust are both different sides of the same wide receiver core. So my trust the process is going to be Darnell Mooney, which obviously means that my bust is going to be Allen Robinson. No, so let me
Marquise
break
Goodwin.
this. Yeah.
Demir Bird.
Jakeem Grant,
Nicole
the best
Hardman.
player on 2017 Texas Tech. So anyway, breaking down that team is really upsetting because Darnell Mooney was amazing this year. Like he had over 1,000 yards, had his breakout season as a second-year wide receiver. Great to see. A player that I've liked for a really long time. The problem is that I also thought there was going to be an extra 1,200 yards in that offense that was going to Allen Robinson. So the way I tend to evaluate players is most probable outcome. That's the way I usually see it. I thought the most probable outcome was that Darnell Mooney was going to be a field stretcher, Allen Robinson was going to be a route runner. He was going to get a lot of PPR points. Darnell Mooney was going to get a lot of long plays. Mm-hmm. Well, we got a little bit of the long plays from Mooney, but we also got a lot of the PPR points to him because Allen Robinson just wasn't getting the ball this year. And that still really hurts me. So the good news is what I thought was the most probable outcome didn't come true, but it helped out Mooney either way. So I think a lot of what went good for Mooney this year, I think is going to continue. I think the Bears are a screaming pick to take a wide receiver in the early second round. I think there's going to be a lot of players there who could kind of slot into that Allen Robinson role. George Pickens makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of been my call on that. But Allen Robinson, that was a big bust. Most probable, and I think I need to start evaluating how I look at like big changes in an offense.
Yeah, man, there's a lot this year. The coaches, there's a lot of big changes. Jacob?
Yeah, and first thought, I don't know who could have predicted the Robinson thing, man. I mean, he was only 28 and he just like forgot how to play football. Like I don't know. I don't think it was just the offense. Either he totally crashed out at 28, which is weird, or like Tom said, he just decided he wasn't in the mood this year.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's a fascinating.
Yeah,
and he didn't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, and he's a fascinating asset right now in startups because I mean, if you can buy in that he just had no interest in being a Chicago Bear this year, and then we're getting Allen Robinson back. I mean, he's only going to be 29 next year. He's not that old. You know, I mean, this could be a massive buy low, or he's just totally cooked. And, you know, it's hard to say. I mean, like we can say, like looking at his PFF grade, his receptions, all these, like he sucked at football this year. It's just like, I don't know if he sucked by choice or if he lost his abilities.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, the one I want to talk about, probably, look, I had a rough year on some calls in the early parts of rookie drafts, but the late parts of rookie drafts were a blast. And definitely my favorite call this year is Elijah Mitchell. You know, I talk a lot about trying to project for the percentile outcome you need to win. And I think that's a great example of this, where he's a guy, you know, I think a lot of times where we're getting in third rounds rookie drafts, you know, sometimes even fourth rounders rookie drafts, it's hard to pick someone like a Mitchell sometimes. It's hard to see the path. You know, he came in potentially the fourth string running back. And I know certainly like in redrafts, not like I'm like projecting him out for 250 carries this year. I mean, come on, right? But then you try to zoom out and you look at, okay, here's a guy who has the speed. He has the size. He has a little bit of pass catching ability. He has the efficiency coming from college, you know, and he's in a scheme, in that wide zone scheme where his profile fits really well. You know, what if we get lucky? What if things fall into place? What if uncertainty works in our favor? And it happened. You know, you get lucky with a Mostert injury, that, you know, and then you get Sermon, who was a super uncertain prospect who ended up busting out. And all of a sudden it opens up an opportunity and Mitchell takes advantage and runs with it. And now you have possibly a top 15 dynasty running back. You know, that's a guy where you look at, that's a guy who had a real ceiling coming into the year. Wasn't the easiest to see how we get there. But I think that's an example of where you take the big swings, and it's not always going to hit. There's going to be more misses when you're looking at round 6 running backs. But I do think it's important to optimize for that ceiling outcome, and he certainly hit it. And if you have Mitchell now, you know, you're pretty excited. Either you can cash out and get a hell of a lot more than you paid, or potentially you're riding a 23-year-old running back for the foreseeable future.
And a damn good one who can catch the ball with Anthony Lynn coming to town. We'll see what happens. I'm pretty excited for him too. Yeah, Sermon was just the poster boy for don't draft him. Like for me, like I said that the whole way, and I all the people that took him at like 201, RIP. I'm so sorry. When Elijah Moore was right there. For me, my player, and I'm gonna keep hitting this one because you took mine. Actually, I was going Elijah Mitchell myself. I'm gonna go with Cooper Kupp. As Jacob knows, since 2019, Cooper Kupp has been my bae. He has been my favorite Dynasty asset to have since 2019 when I started playing Dynasty like this. I had him on and off my rosters continuously, but in the end, he always came back home. And this year, he was my outside favorite pick for wide receiver 1, and it hit way better than ever expected. And the way that I deal with my process when it comes to my final roster selection through drafts, I don't dive deep like Jacob does with his market value. I kind of go with Billy's probable outcomes, but I try to just find I like a lot of safety in my dynasty rosters, and Cooper Kupp provides that. And I thought there's no way that he couldn't take a bigger leap with a better quarterback. And I think the gap from Goff to Stafford is more than just a couple of spots. So I looked at that, and some people said it's going to be Robert Woods. What?
I remember one of the first things you ever said to me in fantasy was Goff is better than Sean Watson.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, that's true.
I always loved paying for Goff more than I ever loved paying for Watson. And at least Goff gave me fantasy points this year. So
yeah,
boom.
Yes,
don't care how he still did it.
Riding a technicality over here.
Yep, I will the whole time. That's what happens. But and he did. He did that
soon.
he took the next step, and now you have who I feel is a top 8 dynasty wide receiver right now, just with what he's locked into. And if you don't agree, then trade me your Cooper Kupps. He's just exactly what my process. Great value, great pick, round 6, 7. He's the poster boy for the fantasy walkabout. Loved him. We're gonna go the other way with the bust, a player who is making you reevaluate your process, someone who you were inherently wrong on, and now it's time to eat some crow. I'm going to start with this one, and it's not going to be Jared Goff. Fuck you, Billy. And it's not from this year. It's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I thought that this was at a time, and look, it's important to always be real, okay? We can sit here, and we can, not all, but most other Bird app or fantasy analysts or podcast hosts that'll say they were never wrong. I was wrong. It is important to know when your process went the wrong way. And I thought there was no way a running back like Clyde, who at LSU was a pass catching monster. He scored touchdowns. It was a high tempo offense. You could literally copy and paste the LSU offense in Kansas City, and it should have been a match made in heaven. He's had some fine games, sure. But for some reason, every time some Jag running back like Jerick McKinnon, Damian Williams, Darrell Williams, he's a Jag, come in, they get peppered with passes. Oh my God. They get the ultimate what could have been. They all get peppered with targets, they score touchdowns, they're phenomenal fantasy assets, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire just cannot do it. I was drafting him high. He's just reevaluating everything, man. He officially made me stop caring about. He was the thing that broke the camel's back, right? And now I have to not care about landing spot as much. That's completely reworked my process, as well as talking to Jacob and some other smarter people than me. So Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the one that forced me to change my process. Billy?
Yeah, I already shout out Allen Robinson, but I did that to cut into Darnell Mooney's time. So I'm going to use another one real quick. And I'm going to call out my bust and Ryan Tannehill, which is crazy because he was QB1 this year. But it was it was like the saddest QB1 season
time for
ever.
The points per game police to now be called.
Yeah, that
the points per game police.
You're under. I know, and I've put a call to the station. You're under arrest.
Tannehill was a rough one because he's the QB1 specifically, he is a QB1 specifically on the fact that he was just there all season. And a lot of stuff went wrong with his team. I mean, Brown, Jones, Henry, they were all gone. Like a lot of things went wrong. But one of the biggest things that we all kind of missed from Tannehill this year was he had these like blow up games the last couple of years since he's been in Tennessee. Like he's had games where all of a sudden he's randomly, putting up 36 points in a game, which is amazing.
Rushing was a big part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you have Julio Jones and the greatest wide receiver of the last 10 years, or AJ Brown and the greatest wide receiver of the last 10 years. Both of those can work either way on the same team. So you'd think everything would be great for Ryan Tannehill. And he put up probably one of the more mundane QB1 seasons in recent memory. It's a rough one to put out, but I love Tannehill. I thought he was going to have all this good stuff on his team. And I thought the most probable outcome was an amazing year. And he put up a good year that still disappointed.
Their biggest mistake was relying on a receiver who gets hurt 4 times a game but always comes back, and a receiver whose hamstring gets hurt it needs to go on IR 3 or 4 times in a year. That's not what you want to rely on. You don't want to rely on that. Yeah, I agree. That was a pretty. Let's quickly do less before we get into the real process that might be the cause of us going significantly over time. A player your process is screaming as a buy, who you wanted nothing to do with last year or years prior. This could be because of changes in situation, changes in value, or expected second-year breakouts, etc. Jacob.
Yeah, I'll tie in my answer for the last one that I didn't give with this one.
Sorry, I forgot about that.
No, it works. It works. It works well because they're both on the same team. So one of them I like. Legitimately, this one has like rattled me so much that I'm making this my first off-season study of the year, like almost solely based that this didn't work. And Chase Claypool is like, it boggled my mind. Like, like he was so good on his targets per route basis last year, both from a earning perspective, earning them downfield, being efficient on them, that like, to me, the only question was like, okay, is he going to play in 2 wide receiver sets? And then Juju went down, and so he got all these snaps, and he was playing all these routes, and like he just like wasn't playing as well as last year. And I think like it has truly made me have to like go through, and I'm doing like now can end up doing like a 10-year study on targets per route run out of rookies, solely because I just don't understand if this was like a weird variance thing where he just didn't play as well, and because he's a human being and seemingly a pretty immature one, or if there's just like something to this where for whatever reason, like these partial route players, where they put it up, they get the larger role, and it just doesn't translate as much as we think it intuitively should. And then the other guy, on the other side is Deontay. I mean, like I had some Deontay last year because he was a good value, but like looking back, like I feel like so ashamed that I don't just have him on like 100% of my rosters because, he was already earning all these millions of targets and he was just so inefficient. Yeah, it's true. And he was just so freaking inefficient on them that, I really looked at it. I was like, okay, Claypool was earning as many targets on his routes. If his role expands, that's the guy that we want. That's the guy with the higher upside. And ultimately it's just like, okay, you know what? Maybe this, whatever like small amount of efficiency I thought we had to account for, I guess I should just account for it like even less because Deontay is a stud. It's unfortunate now that other than like the really, really, really ardent Deontay haters, pretty much the most of the market is caught up and he's going around the top 12. But Deontay, I was wrong to ever have even doubted you for a second. I'm fully in. And Claypool, I'm not out, but I'm seriously flabbergasted at your performance this year.
And what's weird is if you just look at his baseline stats, right, the classic ones that the boomers would look at, receptions and yards, it's not that far off. The touchdowns was such a huge. What are you laughing at?
Just the classic stats that the boomers would look at, like receptions.
Yeah, that's
a funny sentence.
That's where we've gotten to, right? It's
Back
like
in my day, I walked uphill both ways, and I read the box score, and I said, 4 receptions.
Yeah, exactly. It's like baseball now where they don't care about hits and average or home runs. It's WAR and OBPS, the hieroglyphics. Like it's getting to that. It's getting to that point, right? So yeah. So if you just look, all he's missing was touchdowns, but there was a lot more when you start looking into it. Billy, who's a player that you seem like you were wrong on process?
Players that Brian Tannehill.
Your lust. No, a player who your process is screaming as a buy,
Yeah.
but you wanted nothing to do with last year is what I meant.
So I didn't want nothing to do with this player. I thought he was a value last year, but I think now he's screaming that this is like the last chance you're going to be able to buy him for his career. And it's AJ Dillon. I think this season or this offseason, like the next 6 months, is going to be the last chance you have to be able to afford AJ Dillon until he's 32.
Wait till Rodgers signs another team. That's when we swoop.
Yep,
yeah, that's when you go in.
That's what you're hoping for. But right now, every indication out of Packers camp is that Rodgers and Devontae Adams are going to be there next year.
Really?
I don't know how they're going to do it.
That's optimistic.
I have no idea how they're going to do it.
So that just means Aaron Jones is gone, right? Like that.
Boom, baby. Tom is making my points for me.
Well, they can't save any money cutting Jones this year. It would have to be after this year.
Yes, but if they're going to sign Rodgers to a long-term contract and somehow keep Adams around, they need to plan out some of that contract. And part of that is going to be pulling Aaron Jones. AJ Dillon already overtook Aaron Jones in carries this year. Like he was rushing more than him in his second year, and Aaron Jones only beat him out in receiving. Like
a wide receiver who gets carries.
That's exactly all that Aaron Jones is. And Aaron Jones was a player who was getting talked about moving a lot last year. Like he was a player who it seemed like the Packers were ready to let go, and then he just fell into their lap to re-sign, which was ridiculous after they spent a second on AJ Dillon. Besides the point, I'm gonna get angry. But like I think that is the screaming buy of AJ Dillon, that his wow, I'm having a rough time today. His most probable outcome is that he's leading that offense in 2 years' time, and there is a very strong outcome that he's leading it come week 1 next year.
Well, he could be a top 12 running back next year with Aaron Jones there. Like it's just facts. I think part of the reason they re-signed Aaron Jones the way they did is because they weren't sure if he could catch the ball. And then all of a sudden, AJ Dillon comes out and looks like he has soft baby hands, not like bricks. Attached to his wrist is really amazing.
I just don't think that Jones and Dillon like even play the same position really.
No,
it's baffling.
We saw it a little bit more this year. I hope we see it even more next year, but like more of their 2 running back sets. But they did do it. It's not like we're just like fantasizing about it. It did actually happen. I mean, Aaron Jones, you saw in the playoff game, right? Like to me, I don't even think it's a bad contract because he's an offensive weapon for them. I mean, frankly, his role, like the Aaron Jones role over the last 3 years, is the closest comparison we have to like the Cordero Patterson, Deebo Samuel stuff that we saw this year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he played snaps legitimately at running back. Frankly, he actually lines up at H-back, like a tight end. He lines up snaps out wide and not just like how they normally do. Like you'll see the Rams do this all the time. It's like, go out wide, Cam Akers, and like run a go route and we'll never throw to you. Like Aaron Jones is like, no, actually I will run like a sluggo and I'll get a 30-yard catch. Like that's what he does. AJ Dillon is their primary running back, I think, next year. I totally agree with you. And Chris says, what's the trade value this summer to get AJ Dillon? Billy?
I would be shipping out a lot of your aging running backs. Like if you could sell like some of the top tier running backs that are in like the 26, 27 age, sell them out and get AJ Dillon plus, I would be looking to do that in a heartbeat.
You'd be moving Dalvin Cook for AJ Dillon plus.
Cook, Zeke, Henry. Like
Zeke for Dillon plus these days, just based on ADP, but you can try.
Based on what Jacob did to Zeke's ADP, but
I legitimately do feel like a little bit of responsibility for Zeke Elliott's ADP.
But like previously last year, the reason why Dillon gets in this tier is last year I thought Dillon was Tony Pollard, and he turned out to be Tony Pollard plus.
Yeah,
this year
Dillon was what everyone wanted Pollard to be.
This year, I think Dillon is Zeke and Jones is Pollard.
Both went. Hey, I'm pro Dillon and I'm pro Pollard. Both went up in value this year. I'm living my best life. I love AJ Dillon. I traded Zeke for AJ Dillon last offseason and got made fun of relentlessly. So
100%. For me, look, there's always players like this, and for me, it's just like going as long as I did without watching Save It Private Ryan, which I finally marked off my list.
You've been on that ride.
Yeah,
You're really enjoying the Private Ryan.
It's wild, but there are players like this too that you will just avoid, and you seemingly can't figure out why, and then all of a sudden, well, this is kind of my process too, and the player that I was wrong about 100% is Jamar Chase, just flat out, and I thought he was a good player. I didn't think he was this good as a player. I know he was good in college, and he had Burrow, and then he took the year off, and then I wasn't necessarily buying into the preseason stuff because we watched Justin Jefferson, but as a player that I should have been moving up and drafting, what's every time you type 3 come up? What's
I was just doing the same chat, but for Jamar Chase.
Everything you have. I traded my favorite wide receiver, DJ Moore, in a first-round pick mid-season to get Jamar Chase, and I remember talking to you guys about it and like hating it. I almost didn't want to do it. Oh yeah, cool. I almost hated that I did it, but it turned out to be great, and now I have to sit there and try to work my way into getting more shares of Jamar Chase somehow.
Good luck.
As it is, I was wrong.
Yeah,
and the process just screamed too much expectation for me when I wanted, players like Javonte Williams or Kyle Pitts. I probably, looking back now, would definitely be smashing, but that's always hindsight, and it's always 2020, and we can't be Captain Hindsight.
I feel you, man. Like I drafted a lot of Chase in rookie drafts, and it's the biggest regret of my fantasy season was selling a few of them, because I just looked at it, I was like, this guy is basically has top 5 wide receiver value, and he hasn't even stepped on a football field. I was like, it just feels like I have to cash out of this.
Yes.
It just feels like I just feel like, and I think I was burnt too by Clyde last year, right? I mean, he had this, and I understand that Chase was a much better prospect than Clyde, but he seemed like a sure thing, and he was ranked so high before he even ever stepped on a football field. And, in one league, I sold him for a king's ransom, and it literally that trade kickstarted the team that went to the championship 2 straight years. In another league, I stuck with him, and man, he's total dust. So I just feel like would I do it differently? I don't know. But do I wish I had a lot more Jamar Chase? I really do.
And that's just what it is. I wanted nothing to do with him last year when I could have grabbed him. And now, again, I think I have him in one league that Billy runs, and I have him in the one league that I traded for him for, and I think that's actually it. Oh, I traded the 3 firsts and a second for him in another league, and I don't regret it for a minute. I think he's going to hold that value. It's absolutely insane. But look, we have one more bit here to get to, but I think we're going to wait on it. I think this is a great question, and I think we are actually going to hold it for next time because I love this question. We're going to do it, but we do got to get out of here. Jacob's got some lawyer stuff to do. It's only 7:00 for him. And
it's also his birthday.
It is his birthday, and we don't want to keep him
working on some legal files all night.
Look, just some final thoughts here, guys, before we head into the Super Bowl. I want to get it from Billy.
Oh, hey, this is the best time of the year for football fans. This is the time of year we don't have to care about fantasy. We can sit back and watch probably 2 of the more fun teams we've seen in the Super Bowl in recent years. I take time, enjoy it. Don't try and look at the Super Bowl through a fantasy lens. Just enjoy watching 2 really good teams play football. Bengals by 10.
Or max multi-enter every showdown tournament, build 150 lineups, Odell at captain in all of them, and just eat a bunch of wings and your sadness. But don't worry, because if your lineups get off on a wrong stretch, you can just constantly do live action on offshore accounts. Anyway, have fun.
Oh my God.
Oh wow.
And thanks to you too, Chris. Thanks for hanging with us, man. We appreciate you. And look, my message is generally always the same, but I just do want to mention me and the boys have a new show coming out. It's going to be the New Number Theory, where our Full Tilt Dynasty podcast Twitter account handler FT_Maddie is going to teach me the maths, that is analytics, so I can try to catch up with all of the cool hip analytics having people out there and improve my game and hopefully improve some of your guys' game as well. Just another angle to the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast crew.
What am I gonna do when Tom starts texting me about yards per route run?
We'll bond. We're gonna bond. We're gonna bond even more.
You're finally gonna understand what Jacob's saying.
Yeah, half the time. I'm not gonna hopefully need like a Shakespearean translation on the other side from Jacob's conversations. But look, other than that, it's always the same things for me, right? Be kind to one another. Don't be a piece of shit. Don't beat people up at bars. Don't talk to the cops without a lawyer. These are all very important things. Not that I would know, right?
But you have the right to remain silent. You use it.
Exactly. Look, enjoy the game. Have fun with the game. Make some bet with your friends. Have some friends over. Make some food. I know I'm cooking up a storm Sunday afternoon, and we're going to have some folks over. It's going to be a great time. Jacob, enjoy your birthday. Try to get some good times and fun out of it. Set your DFS lineups. Be responsible. Take the bet on the coin toss. Pick heads and win yourself some money. Take the over on the national anthem. Have yourselves a good night, a good weekend. Enjoy the football. And Taylor, we're rooting for you, buddy. Good night, everyone.
Take care, everyone.
What's up, everybody? I just wanted to give a quick reminder that if you want to take part in the Saquon Barkley giveaway, right, leading into our draft countdown, all you have to do is be following at least one member of the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast group, preferably all of us. We're going to take that into account, and you will need to guess our consensus top 1 and 2 rookie picks in our rankings from every member of the Full Tilt Dynasty podcast crew, and get those in by the time we hit the countdown to number 10, and we'll put that date out there soon to come. You're going to want to get in on this. This is a Saquon Barkley signed Penn State jersey. Pictures will be up on the Full Tilt Dynasty page. Tune in Saturday for the fantasy walkabout. And clear eyes, full hearts can never lose. And your best days are always spent tilting. Good night, everybody.